All right, our final section, the final graph we're going to be dealing with today, are called histograms. Um, a histogram is looking at how frequent or how much a certain piece of data shows up. And so it almost is like a bar graph, except we're dealing with different intervals here. And so you get to set your own intervals. So here's an example of some data we might use to do a histogram. But before you could do a histogram, you have to put all the data in the form of a frequency table. So let's take a look. Let's say if we have all this data of the baseball runs this certain team scored in a playoff season. What we want to do is come up with intervals. They have to be equal intervals. So notice I have like 1 to 3. That's only three numbers. 4 to 6, 4 to 5, 6, 7 to 9. Only three numbers at a time. So kind of like when we created the scale, the interval has to be equal as well, and there can't be overlapping intervals. You can't go 1 to 4 and then 4 to 6, because then where do you put the 4? So equal intervals, and have to have the same amount of numbers, and it should cover all of your data. Okay, so we're going to just kind of tally things up here, and take a look at the data. So we're just going to kind of go. I'm going to go down, kind of by rows here, and cross off kind of as we move around. So um, number 4 would obviously be a tally mark for the 1 to 4. 10 would be here, and we're just going to kind of keep going through. 3, 10, another one for 10, another one for 3. 8 would be in that 7 to 9. 5 would be here, and so you kind of get the idea here. So 7, 6, 10, 5, 2 is up here, 7, 4, let's see, 8, and 9. We're up to 6 there. And this is tallying just a way to count, kind of keep track of all these numbers. 11, looks like there's two 11s, so I'm going to go here, make a 5 across, to 6 there for 5, 9, two 9s there, 11, another two 9s, and whoops, crossed out a 10, but we'll put that 10 down there. Okay, so in the 1 to 3, we're just going to count how many tallies we got. That's the frequency that these teams scored 1 to 3 runs. So 4 different times they scored 1 to 3 runs. 7 different times they scored somewhere in that 4 to 6 range. Looks like 10, whoops, 7. And here we have 10, and we have 7 again. So that would be an example of a frequency table. I'm going to tell you now how we turn a frequency table into an actual histogram. So let's look below. So I've done some of the legwork for you here. You'll notice we have our frequency table. They've tallied it up. So in this case, we're looking at shows the speed of cars on their third lap around a raceway. So now here's where a histogram comes in. A histogram is very similar to a bar graph. Notice we have equal intervals on the side, like a scale, equal scale on the side. It's labeled. The different intervals here go on the bottom. So instead of having category labels like we did with sports or something, all the interval labels are going to go on the bottom. So notice we have 85 to 89, 90 to 94, and so on. And so the frequency is always going to be on the left. Okay. The intervals are always going to be on the bottom. So for 85 to 89, well, the number of cars that reached that speed were 4. So I'm going to make a bar graph, kind of oops, up to 4. There's my bar graph. 90 to 94 went up to 8, so it looks like a 0, 2, 4, 6, 8. For 95 to 99, we have 11. I like to kind of, so 0, 1, 2, gosh. 2, 4, 6, 8, 10, and so 11 would be right in there somewhere. 100 to 104 would be 18. At the 105 to 109, there were 12. And 110 to 114, only 5, 2, 4, 5. Okay, so that is and then we should always have a title of some sort. Speed of cars. Label. We have each line labeled, numbered properly. Intervals always go on the bottom. So that's how you make a histogram. Let's look at one way to analyze a histogram. So this histogram shows a town population from 1881 to 2000. Which statement does not support the data? So A, the population more than tripled from 1881 to 1921. So more than tripled. The population, so we want to look at 1881 was around 10,000. 1921, that interval was over 30,000. So that statement is true. The population nearly doubled every 20 years from 1881 to 1940. So 10,000, 20,000, almost 40,000. Okay, true. The population peaked between 1921 and 1940. The population decreased after and leveled off after 1940. Well, it did. It actually was higher than what it was before and went up and down. So it did not level off, and so that would be D in that case. So key here, make a frequency chart, turn that frequency chart into essentially a bar graph is really what it is. It's just a special type of bar graph.